Hey everybody, my name is Jen, the Caffeinated Crafter, and welcome back to my channel. This is a channel where I talk about cross stitch, but today I'm doing a video on how to get started on a cross stitch project. So what do you need? You need the pattern, which I have a little one right here. You need your fabric, you need your floss, and you need scissors and a needle. Little extras that you could have would be something like a little tally counter if you wanted to count how many stitches you were doing. You need to calculate how many, what size fabric that you need to do said project. And of course you need the floss that is required. So for this piece, this is literally, it is a really crappy, flower that I just drew about 10 minutes ago. So it is a terrible looking. If you wanted to copy this, if you wanted to screenshot it and do it yourself, you absolutely could. I don't care. I literally just drew this from, you know, whatever. So can you see it? Yes. Okay. I had to stand up and make sure you could see it. Okay. So I just picked some colors at random from what I could remember colors looking like, and I feel it, so my pattern only calls for 4 colors, and I actually didn't do too bad of a job. So the filled in, the dot is 742, which is the center of the flower, and then the leaves of the flower are 321. And then the stem of the flower is 907, and then the grass underneath is 904. So, you know, not too bad. Good job, Jen, for picking out some pretty decent colors. Okay, so up here at the top that you can't see, there we go. Up here at the top, it tells you how big, that I counted out how many stitches it was. It's 22 wide by 27 high. So in order to find out, I'm going to do a little bit of this on an 18 count white Aida. This was just some random piece. It's this long. I don't need it to be this long. So I want to find out how big of a piece of fabric I need to, to know how small I can cut this. So this is a very, very tiny thing, right? And so I'm going to take the 27, you could do, it doesn't matter what order you do this. Let's just do the first number. So 22, okay. So 22, and you divide it by the stitch count of your fabric. So my fabric is 18 count, so we're gonna say 22 divided by 18. And let's give myself a 3-inch border all the way around. So I need to add 6, 3 for the left and 3 for the right. Where am I at? Whoops, clear. I can't see the screen on the calculator. So 22 divided by 18 plus 6. So I need my fabric to be just over 7 inches wide. And then 27 divided by 18 plus 6 for the top and the bottom, 7.5. So I will just do myself a solid and I will cut my fabric 7.5 by 7.5. Hopefully this fits. I'm not a good judge of size, just eyeballing it. Oh, look at that. So this piece of fabric is about 8 inches long. So I'm just gonna leave it, give myself that extra room. And then for the width, we'll just do, we're going to, yeah, we'll just cut right here. Let me get that out of my way. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it. The nice thing about Aida is that if you can see the holes pretty good, you can just cut right along the holes. There you go. So there's the fabric I need. Okay, whoopsies, it's stuck. Oh no, my needle minder's sticking to my scissors. Okay, now, how do you read a pattern? How do you get started? Something like this, I would start in the middle. So when you see a pattern, this is going to be, I drew this because I wanted to be able to show you how to find the center of the pattern. And let me just stand up for this. I wanted to show you how to find the center of the pattern, but I didn't want to be showing other people's patterns all over the internet. So you basically, every pattern is going to have an arrow somewhere. Usually they will do on the left and the top. So you find the arrow that tells you the center of the length of the pattern, and you go over, and then the arrow that's at the top tells you the center of the width of the pattern, and you just meet them about in the middle. And so the center of my pattern is actually the bottom leaf of this flower. So that's where I would start. I would just start right about here. Now, how do you find the center of your fabric? Very simple. You fold it in half. Now this fabric is pretty even. It's like a 1/2 inch off, but the overall thing is not that big, so it doesn't matter. But you fold it in half one direction, and then you fold it in half the other direction, so that you have all your raw edges like kind of here, and then your folded edges are all right here. And then you take your needle, maybe. If you have multiple needles, you could make your life easier, and you can mark. I don't feel like stabbing myself. These holes are a little bit smaller. There we go. You could mark with one piece, with one needle, and then thread your other needle to get started. But that's your basics of how to find the center of your fabric. Now, if this was, say, this piece, which is wider, like it's obviously different with length and width, you would fold, let me grab another needle. Mark your center. Say this was a pattern that was a lot wider than it was long, right? And then you would make sure that when you started stitching that you had it in this orientation as opposed to this orientation. So double check your orientation before you start stitching, or you're going to be big mad if it's supposed to look like this and you start it like this and you get to here and you're like, why won't it fit? Yeah. Okay. So we are going to set that aside. This is going to be our little flower, right? So 321 is going to be the first color that we need. There's different things that you can do. When I started stitching, I eyeballed it. Like I would just look at the pattern and I would just like kind of eyeball it, and I would just kind of know where, I'm going to start this from like kind of the beginning. I would just kind of know where I was on the pattern. People nowadays, well, there's different things that you can do. A lot of people now will highlight the pattern as they do it, so that they do not lose their place. To cut a length of thread, you can do floss drops, you can do bobbins, you can do floss away bags. I do bobbins. I've been doing them for 80 years. A lot of people don't like doing bobbins because they leave kinks in the thread. I have never had issues with it. Never. By the time you pull off the 1 or 2 strands that you need and you start stitching, the bends in the floss go away. It does not show in your piece. I've been stitching for 35 years. I have never once in my life looked at my finished piece, or partially finished piece, since I have such a hard time finishing stuff. I've never once looked at the piece and been like, oh man, I see right there where there was like where it was like wrapped around and I had a kink in the fabric from being on the bobbin. Never once had that. So I use bobbins. Now, I do a loop start, which I will show you with this video. It'll probably be in other videos too, but I do a loop start, so I want my floss extra long. So what I do is I hold the end in my fingers. I go up to my elbow, about, not super tight, but I go up to my elbow, and then I just kind of bring it down. Like I hold the bend right there, and I just bring it down till the ends meet up. And I like to give myself just a little bit extra. get my scissors ready. So I pull it out, and this is where, for me, the kinks come in handy, because I just count out 1, 2, 3, and I just kind of cut right there. Now, because I'm doing a loop start, I only need to pull one length off of this piece that I now have cut. So you just find one of the threads, grab onto it with one hand, hold the entire strand, because this is 6 strands of DMC. If you've never used this before, this is 6 strands of DMC. So when people say stitch with 2, that means that you are pulling off 2 of these individual little strands of floss right here. So I'm going to do a loop start, which means I'm going to take this and fold it in half, giving me 2, but I only need to pull off 1. If that does not make sense, it will in a minute. So you grab 1, you grab the whole piece, not super tight, loosely, so you can pull through, and you just start pulling. It's gonna start kind of bubbling up on you right there. That is perfectly fine. And you just pull. If I was doing this off camera, I would just keep pulling until I got the whole thing. I wouldn't do what I'm doing right now. Pull until you get that off. And then you have your other 5 strands over here, and you have your 1 strand you're gonna use right here. If this had like stopped and like kind of almost knotted up, I would just kind of do this to straighten everything out, and then it would pull out with no problem. Now, what I do with the rest of it is, if it's a full length like this right here, then I just wrap around vertically on my bobbin. This is just what I do. This is a super old bobbin, a 321. And then I just kind of use a little tail. I don't like the plastic bobbins. I really do not. This is a shorter length right here, as you can see, of a piece that I had finished off and cut. So I'm gonna put it over on the right side of the bobbin. And I know that these are not full lengths over here. These are my full ones. So if I have a lot of stitches, I'll pull from here. If it's just a few, I will pull from over here. Okay, now, but yeah, anyway, I don't like plastic bobbins. I like cardboard ones. They're cheaper. I also have some pip and chip ones. The acrylic ones, I do have these, but I only have like 1 set of them because I wanted to try them out and I like them. But I have a lot of cardboard ones, and it's fine. So to do the loop start, you take the 2 ends like this and you put them together so that you have your ends on one side and then you have your loop on the other. And then thread your needle. I know I have a needle in my fabric. I'm just using that to keep my place. And thread the needle. There we go. Okay, now, so the center is going to be right there. Okay? Yeah, right there. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is how I stitch in hand. I will either roll up from the bottom, and I roll so that the back of the work is in my hand. That's how I do it. Other people will roll so that the front of the work is in the hand. I roll from the bottom. I roll so that the back of the work is in my hand so that I'm not messing up the actual stitches. Different people do different things for different reasons. But this one, I'm gonna kind of roll from the side so that it's a little easier trying to show you how to do this. Okay, so I kind of know about where the center is going to be, and I'm going to go ahead, and this is the center stitch right here, but I'm going to go 1 over and start there. So to do a loop start, hang on, let me get that out of the way. So to do a loop start, my legs go, depending on where I'm starting my stitch and in relation to where the previous stitch was, but I typically go bottom left to top right. And then my top leg goes bottom right to top left. So to do a loop start, I'm gonna go into let me bring this closer. So left to right is how my bottom leg usually goes, right? I'm hoping you can see it because of the device I'm using to hold my phone. I can't see the center of the screen. So I'm gonna go into the top right from the top of the fabric, as you can see, and I'm going to pull until the loop gets closer to the edge. Then I'm going to go into the bottom left, how I would normally start my stitches. actually make it in the hole, pull my needle through, and I'm going to catch this loop, and I'm going to pull just like that so it's looped around. And then you can go in, I have done this both ways. Some people say you have to go in one hole versus the other. I have done both, and it works either way. And now your fabric is secured, just like that. Or not your fabric, your floss. And then there's, you can either do all the legs going across, or you can do one stitch at a time. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches across. I'm just going to do one stitch at a time. So 1, what you could also do, actually let's do it like this. Let me do this row one stitch at a time. Hang on a second. I'm like standing while I'm doing this so I can kind of see, make sure that my stuff stays on camera. Ah! I'm not going to stitch this entire piece because that's going to take forever. I'm just trying to show you how to get started with the piece. Okay, so that's like kind of the top row right there. Another way that you could do this, if you started here and you're like, wait, but I want to be able to carry all of my, like I don't want to have to end here and then start up here with another thread. You can do half stitches. So this second row right here, I know there's a stitch there, we're skipping that for right now. So the second row is also 4 stitches. You can do half stitches, like the first leg. So see, I'm just trying to like save my floss, so I'm kind of doing it from top to bottom now. It's just something I picked up as I was in my stitching life, where like when I'm trying to conserve floss. And then the third row is 3 stitches, and it's 1 in. But what this, doing it like this will actually be able to get you, so I go back and forth between both methods, because if I'm trying to do something like this where I want to conserve and save the floss and not have to start and stop and start and stop, I will do half stitches and then go back, because this is going to end up here and my new leaf is going to start up here. So I want to do half stitches all the way down, then finish them going back up, and then that way I still can just move on to the next leaf instead of having to end my thread and start a new one up here. So it's 3, then another 3. We're just going to do like this one leaf, and we'll call it a day. Okay, so 3 and 3, and then I did 2 going in 1. I'm going 2, 2. People always talk about having super neat backs. It's not really so much for me having a neat back. I just want it, I want the front to look good. The back of the piece, honestly, it doesn't really matter to me. I just, if I can avoid having like ending my leaf here and then traveling all the way up here to another one, I do that. Like I don't purposely try to make my back look terrible. Okay, so I did the 2 rows of 2. Now I'm going to do 2 single stitches here. I don't purposely try to make my backs look terrible. But if it is a messy back, I don't care. I don't care. Okay, so now we're going to go up and we're going to finish these half stitches. And as you can see, I'm alternating between what direction I'm going regarding my stitches, again, to conserve thread. That's just my personal choice. You don't have to do that. You could just keep doing the exact same way that you stitch all the way up and do it that way, but that's just not. I will also alternate between doing individual rows and doing like sections, like I'm going to show you right here. Because if I go back and forth, if I go back this way and back this way, I still have to travel over a few stitches to get back over here. So what I'm going to do, again, just to conserve thread, is I'm going to go up to this one here like this, and then I'm going to finish these 2 rows together. There's different methods of stitching. Some people, like me, don't always care if you're bringing your needle up in a hole that has multiple stitches in it. Some people do care, and they say, now I will admit, bringing your needle up in a hole that has no stitches in it does technically make your stitches look neater. I have always stitched like this. It doesn't bother me, so I just do what works best for me. Okay, so this leaf is done. Flower petal, not leaf, flower petal. So these stitches are all done. So now I'm going to come up here to this one. Do this stitch here. And then you can start on this leaf right here. You can either do all the way over, all the way back, or you could, you can do it however you want. It does not matter. But that's how you find out. I'm gonna leave this right here. This is called parking, where you pull and you just leave it, and so you can move on to the next one. But that's the basics of how to read a pattern. And so you could either just leave it be and just be like, okay, well, I know that this symbol for this leaf is done. This is a pretty simple one. I don't think it's necessary to highlight something like this. If it was a lot more complicated, where you had a lot of different colors in one area, then yeah, you probably could highlight and it would make your life way, way easier. Honestly, I might finish this and show it my next floss tube and see what it looks like. You would, if you wanted to go ahead and be like, all right, well, I'm tired of stitching red. I want to start stitching on this. I'm just going to pull a small length of the 907, which is, nope, I'm a big fat liar. See, this is why you double check yourself. 90, yeah, no, I'm right. I was looking at the wrong symbol. 907 is the open square right here. Again, loop start. So you put the 2 ends together. I just did that out of habit. Put the 2 ends together so you have the loop over here, the ends over here. And we're gonna do a little bit of this stem. And then this I'll show you how I end my threads. So we're gonna go right next to this top row of the red stitches. You're gonna go into the top corner, up in the bottom corner of however your bottom leg normally goes, catch your loop, pull it. I think the first loop start I showed you, I went back down in the hole that I came up in. This one, I'm gonna go down in the hole that I went down in. There we go, just like that. You see, it works both ways. Okay, so this thingamajigger is 2 stitches here, 1 stitch up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just And it's okay to jump around a couple stitches here and there. That does not bother me whatsoever. Can you see this? Again, I can't see the center of my screen, so I don't see exactly what you're seeing because of the clamp that I'm using to hold my phone. But it's okay to jump around a few stitches. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to come down here, and because I'm coming from the top, I'm going to do my bottom like top to bottom instead of bottom to top. That's just how I am. Again, it's just years of practice. You do what works for you. Ow, I just stabbed myself, son of a mother. Oh, that hurt. You know, this shit's actually kind of cute. It's coming out cute. I like the colors. Okay. And I did 4 rows of 2. I would normally be like, all right, let's do this entire thing on here so that you can see what it looks like, so you have that satisfaction. But I don't want to make this video an hour long stitching this. So I think what I'm going to do is I will just finish this thread. I will end this video, and then I will, while I'm talking right now, I will insert a picture, because I'm just going to probably finish this before I post it. I will, or maybe I could come back once it's like completed, splice it together. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, so let me show you how I end this thread. Maybe I'll just splice a few clips together. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, so I did 4 rows of 2, and my thread is, because I used a very short length, well, you know what, I could actually, so I did 4 rows of 2, and then this is going to be another 4 rows of 2, but it's going to be out this way. And listen, again, if you want to screenshot this pattern and stitch it and change the colors, that's fine. This is so basic. Yeah, basic. Now I'm kind of curious to see how this turns out. My mom bought me this book, the paper that this pattern is on. My mom bought me this book for Christmas. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to finish the 4 rows of 2 for this little part because my thread's just, I normally will do thread chicken and see how many stitches I can get out of it, but that's just, it's a little silly to do that in this situation, so I'm not going to. So I'm going to end my thread. So you flip, I flip my work over. And I just bring my needle behind the threads, just like this. Push it through, pull it, clip off the excess, just like that. So I will be back in a bit because I'm going to, what I will do is I will, what will I do? I'll probably finish this stem and I will do, I don't know, I'll come back at some point after I do a few threads, and I'll show you kind of like a partway picture, and you know, and then I'll come back at the end when I have the whole thing done, or as I think of something else to say. Okay, so I will see you in a bit. Okay, so what I did was I finished this thread right here. I'm gonna move on to the dot real quick, but one thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention before, this is a full length right here on my bobbin. Actually kind of a long one, but that's all right. So again, before I say what I wanted to mention, this is not what I wanted to mention. I'm gonna grab one strand, hold the others in my hand, and then just pull. And it's like tightening up on me, so I'm just gonna hold this a bit tighter, and I'm gonna kind of I'm actually glad this happened. I'm gonna kind of like, because it knotted up on me. That's okay. I like when stuff like this happens so you can see what, if you're new, you can see what experienced people do, which is make a huge mess. Oh my God. And it doesn't help that I can't really see because I'm standing up. What the frick? So if you pull slower, this does not happen. It really doesn't. I was trying to be fast. Hang on. I was trying to be fast and cool, and now I'm neither. What's happening? Ha, I got the one I wanted. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is just kind of work my hands over this to try to figure out what's happening here. Here we go. Here we go. You just kind of be gentle with it and you'll figure it out. Ah. Looks like this one had folded up on itself. So let me straighten this one out. Add it back to my main thing. Put it all together. We're gonna wrap this puppy back up. I think I'll be able to get the center of this flower with one length because of how long this is. So anyway, one thing I wanted to mention was my opinion regarding your stitches is you can do whatever direction you want your stitches to be, right? Which everybody has this opinion, honestly. Like any experienced stitcher will say, the way to make your stitches look better is to have them all going in the same direction, as in the top leg of your stitches all go in the same direction. So you don't have, like you don't want the top leg, which is the part that everyone sees mostly. You don't want some of them going this way and some of them going this way. You want them all to face, it can be either this way or this way, but it needs to be the same across the entire piece. That's probably one of the things I've seen people get super nasty about, like, which I think is just stupid and rude. Oh, you need to make sure, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, first of all, the person sharing their finished piece was not, because a lot of the times it's just on when people share their finished pieces, they're like, look what I did, it's my first one. And then you get all these people commenting about what they should have done to make it better. Which, if the person asks, now if you're ever on Facebook and you see something where you feel like something could have been done. All right, so I finished this one, so I'm gonna go up here and go back across. But if you see somebody post a finished piece on, and especially if they comment that they're a newer stitcher. Oh, I got a knot in the back, or tightened up. Let me just kind of pull on a little bit, there we go. But if you see somebody post something and they're a newer stitcher and you see stuff that they could have done to make it better, but they did not ask for an opinion on what they could do to make it better, shut up. I mean, seriously, like I see stuff posted on the different Facebook groups all the time, And do I think some of the pieces look like absolute garbage? Absolutely. Do I think the patterns are, you know, not really my jam? Of course. Have I seen some people put pictures in programs like Pick-to-Pat, which can convert a photo into a cross-stitch pattern, and it looks like the 2-year-old grandson has been taken hostage by a bunch of ghosts and has awful shading, and it looks terrible and you can't even tell what it is? Absolutely. Have I ever told these people that? No, I have not. If you do not have any, like, now, do I think that the people who say, oh my God, it looks gorgeous, and it does look like someone just, you know, a 3-year-old took some markers and just colored all over someone's face on the picture, and they're like, oh my God, it looks so good. Do I think they're lying? Yes, I do think they're lying. Or they are not wearing their glasses. But I'm not going to tell them that their piece looks like garbage. Why not? Because they worked really hard on that. They did. They worked really hard on it, and they think it looks great. That's good for them. That's their project. If they think it looks great, that's the only important thing that matters. Really. Like, I'm kind of inserting my own opinion of what you, I know this is supposed to be like a how to cross stitch thing, but I feel like this ties in to being a new cross stitcher. People are always going to give you their opinions on how they think that you should have done your project. Screw them. If you did not, now if the person says, hey, this is what's happening, what do you think of this? Yes, I will give my opinion, but I will do it nicely. There is no reason to be rude in this community. Absolutely no reason, unless the person's being a true asshole. How far does this go? I didn't even look. Same, okay. But if you're a new cross stitcher and you post something and people are critiquing, whoops, I went over too far. If you're a new cross stitcher and you post a picture of something that you did and people are critiquing your work, listen, take it with a grain of salt, because everybody has it. It's like that famous saying, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. We don't all want to know about it. Something along those lines, right? Just ignore them. Especially if they're being rude about it, just ignore what they're saying. Don't take it to heart. Don't let a couple people in a Facebook group of tens of thousands of worldwide people, don't let a few of them run you off of posting pictures and, you know, saying that you know, your picture looks dumb. Don't, you know, or you could have done this to make it better. Well, you know what? Everybody's learning. And people who have been stitching for 70 years, 80 years, 40 years, 35 years, we don't all know everything. We really don't. Because some of the same people that I see critiquing other people's work, saying how they could have made it better, I've seen some of their photos, and their photos look like garbage. Do I bring that up and be a petty person and bring it up and say your picture looks like crap? No, I don't. I could, but I don't. I want to, but I don't. So that's not really why I came back on here. I really just wanted to say, to honestly make your piece look good is to have the top leg of your stitches go in the same direction. Now, if I'm doing a kit that calls for a combination of half stitch and full cross, half stitch is where you just do one leg of the stitch and not both to make it an X. You just do it to make it a line. So I did 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to do this one, and it's only going to be 4 stitches. Some people you'll see different things in different instruction kits. Some instruction kits will tell you to make the half cross the same direction as the top leg of your full cross. Some people, like some kits will have it, or patterns will have it, well, with this color, you're going to do it the same direction as your top leg. And this color, you're going to do it the same direction as your bottom leg to give it texture. I personally don't pay attention to that stuff because it's going to really throw me off and slow me down, and I'll get it wrong anyway. So I personally just do my bottom, my half cross the same direction as my bottom leg, and that's it. Okay, so we're going to end this thread. So again, this is how I end my threads 99% of the time. I just feed it under strands. I do not knot. That is another thing. Like, there's no cross stitch police. You can do whatever the hell you want. You want to put knots in your stuff, go for it. If you want to, you know, have your stitches go one way on one row and one way on another row, that's fine. You do whatever you want. We're going to go back to the stem because I like changing colors. You do whatever you want. Really, it's your piece. It's your stitching. But that's one thing I do is, like with my full crosses, all my stitches go the same direction, and I do not put knots in my thread. Like, I do not knot the thread on the back. I will feed it under stitches, or I will figure out a way to feed it under stitches, or I will do a pin stitch, which would be in a separate video, in order to, or waist thread or something in order to tie off the thread. Okay, so we're going to go back to the screen. So I had done the 4 rows of 2, and I came over to this one and I was doing these, but I ran out of thread. So we're going to do 2 rows of 2 directly under this. I'm trying to think of what else I could say in this video. I don't know. Okay, so we did 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 more rows of 2, and the stem will be done. This is actually kind of good job, Jen. I think this is actually starting to turn out kind of cute. I really don't have that much more to go. Maybe I'll just stay on. I don't know. I feel like this is getting kind of long. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here. I'm going to work on this, probably do the grass, get this leaf done, and then I'll come back when I just have this final leaf to go. Okay, that's better. Back stitching is basically the lines that provide the details of said piece. And you just kind of follow the direction that the back stitching tells you to go. Some people will do if you read the directions on back stitching, it tells you basically from this hole to this hole is one back stitch, from this hole to this hole is another back stitch. I prefer having my back stitching going over like two squares to make it look a little bit smoother. And also, son of a bitch, my hands are dry, so my thread keeps getting stuck on my dry ass hands. And as you can see right here, it did that way over here too. Am I gonna fix that? Hell no, I'm not gonna pull all those stitches out. I'm leaving it. And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what the back of your work looks like. I'm leaving it because you know what? From the front, you can't tell. That's our little secret. Mine and yours. Some pieces like Soda Stitch and some of the Russian and Ukrainian designers, their backstitching does not necessarily, like, they wouldn't necessarily have backstitching going across this entire petal. They would only have it accentuating around like curves and whatnot. And some backstitch the entire thing and they go literally right along the lines. I'm going to kind of freestyle here in just a minute. Typically, backstitching uses one thread. Oh, I just realized I did a 3-petal flower. I was intending on doing a 4-petal flower, but I just realized it's only 3. That's funny. So, technically, no, it's 4. I cannot count. Oh my God, that's hilarious. This is 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Learn how to count, Jen. So technically, this piece is done. Technically. You could add backstitching. You know what? I don't feel like adding it. I don't feel like adding it. Maybe we can do, you know, maybe I will. Maybe we'll just do some backstitching around the, I have this black thread from when I was working on a monochrome piece, so typically it's 1 thread. And you would follow the pattern, but we're not going to because I don't have it on the pattern. We're gonna freestyle. So say you got this pattern, right? And you wanted to add backstitching because you think it needs it. So I'm just going to, let's start with the flower. But you don't really know what to add, right? So this is how I do, this is how you can do it for, you can run your thread. There's a single strand loop start that you can do. I'm not doing that here because this is backstitching. It's not regular cross stitching and I don't feel like messing with all that. But there is a single strand loop start that you can do that I will show in a future video. But this is how I normally start my single threads for backstitching is I'll just loop it under some threads like I'm ending it. And then I'm just very cautious that, where am I, by the way? What side am I on? Over here. I'm just kind of a little cautious on how I start my, like how tight I pull when I start my thing until it kind of gets anchored down. So I flip it over, I see, so if you pull too hard, you're gonna pull that right out. So let's freestyle. So I like going over 2 squares when I do my back stitching because I feel like it looks smoother. And then for this, we're just, I don't know how I would have done this had I drawn this out. So we're gonna kind of make it up as we go. Is that gonna work? Do I like that? Or should I do it on the outside? Oh, go away, red thread. What I mean by that is forgot to do that part. Maybe if I went like right here, that showed too much of the white. And then if I just, and then you could go back up. There's different ways to do this. Honestly, I'm not familiar with all the fancy terms for what the actual backstitching is, like regarding the names. Let's go up past. I just do what works. All right, so that might work. Again, this is not on the actual pattern. I did not actually backstitch the petals on the pattern itself. I'm just kind of winging it. But I like doing, when I'm doing a straight line like this, I like going every 2 squares because I feel like it gives you a smoother finish with your lines. And I go up in, probably going to see it because this is going to be one square. But I always try to go up in the hole that's away from the already stitched line and go down in the hole that's attaching it together, if I'm doing a straight line like that. Okay, so let's do, how did I do this? Let's kind of do this right here. And then we'll kind of do this right here. Again, there's different ways that you can do this, and it doesn't have to be 2 squares. You can go further. Like if I have some of these pieces that I've worked on, I try to go make the line as long as it needs to be to go into a hole. I'm not the biggest fan of splitting threads when it comes to backstitching. I'm not really a big fan of it. So if I have to make the stitch longer to get it to a hole, I will do that. So again, this is how I do mine. This is not the end all be all. This is how you must do it. This is just how I do like my straight lines. And then, like I said, when I'm doing back stitching that is not a straight line like this, then I try to make the stitch as long as it needs to be to go into a hole. Not gonna lie, I kind of wish I had this, already like backstitch on the pattern so I could kind of show you a little bit better, but it's whatever. This is something that you can do if you are really honestly trying to wing it and just make something look better. See, I'm not really the biggest fan of having the white fabric right there, but you know, it's whatever. And not all patterns require backstitching. I'm just doing it because I figured this is a how to cross stitch tutorial, sort of. Maybe I should show a little bit of backstitching in this how-to, and I don't really want to show it on, oh, I see right there, I split the stupid thread. And I don't like doing that. Like I split the Ada because I didn't go up in a hole. We're just gonna go right here. I didn't want to show backstitching on a copyrighted pattern, so I figured let's just add it to this one. And you don't have to use black either. If you wanted to color match and do this in a red, like do this backstitching in red, you could do that. You don't have to, you could even do it in purple, you could do it in blue, it doesn't matter. the beauty about some of these patterns. Now, what I would not recommend is changing the colors up on something like a full coverage. I do not feel that it is appropriate to change colors on full coverage projects. That's just my humble opinion, because you're really going to screw the piece up if you start changing colors out. Like, oh, I have it calls for this red, but I have this red, so I'm just going to use this red instead. No, no, do what they say. There's a reason why that pattern maker picked that color. There's a reason for it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go around the center, and then we're going to call it a day. So the flower itself will be backstitched, but not the stem or the grass. Actually, you know what I want to do? I'll go up to this corner right here. So if you wanted to follow exactly how the color goes, you can do that too. All you would do is just follow the color. May not always be 100% visible, depending on how thick your stitches are. Like, this would probably be a little easier to see had I done this on a 14 count Aida. So if I do this on a 14 count Aida, this flower would be bigger. If I do this on a 28 count even weave over one thread, it would be smaller. The higher the number for fabric, the smaller the squares are. So an 11 count, there's 11 stitches in 1 inch, and your project is going to be freaking huge. You will see some stamped kits that have 11 count Aida. A lot of samplers, like the fancy samplers that you see some people working on, a lot of samplers, because they're so large, they will use a higher count fabric, like anywhere from like a 36 up to a 50 something or other, 56, 52, something like that. They will use a higher count fabric because those pieces are so big that they want, oh man, that's really cute. You know what, let's keep going. Let's I keep saying I'm just gonna do this, I'm just gonna do this. I feel like Bob Ross over here doing this. Let's add this in over here. Let's add this in over here. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. But anyway, a lot of these samplers, they use higher count fabric because they are large and they want to make the piece manageable. And honestly, some pieces look like junk when they are stitched on like a lower count fabric. Like those samplers probably honestly would not look very good if they were stitched. No, actually they would. Really depends on the fabric itself, I suppose. Let's do the top of the grass. And you know what? Just to be cute, I'm going to add a little half stitch right here. Actually, no, let's do this. We're going to go here, and then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to add a little half stitch in right there. Yes, we are Bob Rossing this pattern. We're just adding some stuff in. Happy little flower. And a little line right there. Let's just finish this line of the stem and then we'll be done. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go up 3. Okay. There we go. We're done. And my thread, maybe. That'll work. Okay, now we're done. Man, that turned out so cute. Look at that. How cute is that? Oh my God. Oh my God. Do I have... Oh my God, guys. Holy shit. Oh my God. Look how cute. Hang on, let's get that centered. Oh, I did not plan this at all either. Let me loosen this up. Get this stupid effing hoop over the top. This fabric is, hang on, this fabric is so stiff. So now all I'll have to do is tighten this joker up to finish this. Oh my God, y'all, how cute is that? I mean, I have to center it a little bit more. But I can cut the fabric off of the back here, right? Cut the excess fabric off. I could cover it with something or kind of lace it in the back or something. And I could also do something with, I don't even know where I got this hoop from. Get that sticker off of there. But yeah, oh my God, look at that. So I have a partial FFO, a start, a finish. So a SAF is a start and finish, typically in one day, but some floss tubers will call a start and finish before they, in between videos. Sometimes they'll call it a SAF because they started it after one video and finished it before the next video. But a SAF is basically a start and finish within a day, a week, whatever, a very short time frame. A FO, which is what this is a finished object, and an FFO is a fully finished object. This is not quite an FFO yet. I'm calling it a partial FFO because I have a hoop it can go in, but I have to cut the excess fabric off. I have to center this a little bit more and get this sticker off of this hoop. But holy shit, how cute is that? Wow, Jen, you did such a good job. Holy cow. I had no idea that I could do something like this. Oh my God, this is so cute. Okay, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments section down below. And if you are not already subscribed, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. I have more videos I will be putting out, and hit the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. If you like what you had to see, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Share these videos with your friends who are asking questions about cross stitching, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have. If I need to turn something into another video, I will. So take care, happy stitching, get a lot of stitches in, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.